that actually is often misunderstood, especially in the conventional space, but even sometimes in the functional medicine space. So we are going to talk about parasites today. You've probably heard of them, but may not be sure how they fit in or what to do. So thank you so much for joining us today, Sinclair.
You're so welcome. This is actually one of my favorite topics because I love seeing the light bulbs go on for people and realize, there might be something huge I've overlooked, and that's why I'm not healing yet.
Yes, I know. And that when those things change, it's just such a game changer. So I'm excited to dive into this too. Now, I know we all have personal stories. So I love to share some stories. I know you have a history. So I just like to give a little background because I know sometimes it's really personal for us.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And I think that actually makes you an amazing practitioner when you get to have your own trials and tribulations with health. Not only greater empathy, but just more commitment to finding tools that really work. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, for me, it was definitely a very personal journey. I was actually in mental health first, and it was my weird rabbit hole of, a confluence of symptoms that added up to be, major chronic illness. I ended up in the hospital as a mystery patient. They couldn't figure me out. None of the normal labs came back at a conclusive one thing to fix: the MRIs, the CAT scans. There's just nothing to point at and say, let's do a surgery or let's put you on a prescription. It's just a very long road. And a big part of that journey for me was parasites. And I was in denial about it for a long time because I was like, how could that possibly be something that my body would let happen, for one thing? And if I had gotten one, wouldn't I know right away? And the truth is, it took me until I was down to 3 foods. I was really unlivable gut pain, crushing fatigue, big mood swings, extreme bloating, sharp abdominal pain, GERD, nausea. It was a lot. It was running my life. And until I finally decided, okay, maybe I need to look at this parasite thing and tackle it head on.
Yes, I know.
So, yeah.
It's true. They're invasive, and we can get them everywhere. I think we live in an international world, so I think sometimes people think parasites or something like if you travel to a different country or somewhere else, and no, you can actually get them from your grocery store, from anywhere.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that because I still feel like we have to encounter that myth every day. Parasites don't know borders. And of course, with our international food production system, they're coming in anyway from tropical regions because we're growing food off season somewhere and we're importing it, like you said. So, and there's a lovely study that I like to quote that was from Wisconsin. It was 38 out of 40 salad bars tested had parasites in them. And this was, several years ago now. So it's just an important point that it doesn't matter if you're a meat eater, if you're eating plant-based, you have plenty of exposure. Parasites are alive and well in North America. You don't have to have gone to a developing country or hung out in the jungle, although it's certainly easy to pick things up that your microbiome hasn't seen before and your immune system isn't calibrated to if you expose yourself to new environments, but it doesn't require that. And for many of us, parasites actually steal into the picture because we're overloaded by toxins, right? So, and parasites act as toxin sponges. So they can kind of sneak in and your immune system will even tolerate that. And it's these subtle chronic symptoms over time that build and build and build, like histamine overload, right? That actually end up really driving a significant part of our health issues. And they snuck in the back door a long time ago, and they've had plenty of time to set up shop. Mm-hmm. So.
Well,
quite interesting, right?
Yes, it is. Yes. Let's start by just kind of talking. Let's go to basics 101 for people that maybe just don't know what a parasite is, how to look for a parasite. Can we start at the beginning? It's going to be
absolutely. Well, let's start with assessment because, what signs and symptoms would actually apply to you to actually look further into this, right? And actually, histamine intolerance is one of the biggest ones. And having MCAS, a diagnosis of MCAS, is quite the indicator as well, because parasites, many species of parasites, one of the fundamental characteristics that they have is they actually produce high loads of histamine. And they also interfere with the liver's ability to actually deal with histamine. So, and of course, remember guys, histamine in and of itself isn't bad. It's how much do we have of it and can our body regulate it well, right? We need it to be alive. It's not a bad word. it's just, do we have too much of it? And so then becoming oversensitive to that and, ending up having to live our lives around that. So that is a primary issue. We also have a lot of secondary issues. You don't have to have all of these. You could just have some of them. It's very common to have skin issues that can be diagnosed as autoimmune in nature, like rosacea, eczema, psoriasis, obviously digestive conditions, right? Bloating, constipation, diarrhea, alternating constipation and diarrhea. The same parasite species can create constipation or diarrhea depending on a number of factors in your gut. So we don't want to rule that out for you. Becoming sensitive to foods. That's a big deal because parasites love to dysregulate and distort your immune responses. It's a big part of how they like to run the show in your body. So as soon as you start becoming chemically sensitive, is this, ringing any bells? Food sensitive. It doesn't have to be food allergies. Although dairy intolerance and grain intolerance is, really indicative of parasites. But also some weird stuff like, sleep disturbances, difficulty falling asleep, difficulty staying asleep, feeling like you wake up exhausted even if you had 8 to 10 hours sleep. Finally waking up in the evening. I hate to break it to you, but you're not a night owl, sweetheart. Humans don't have a night owl gene. We have parasites. Healthy humans want to be in sync with the sun, right? And then, of course, like some fun things that can show up in your labs. It is hard to test for parasites, but there are some markers, like being low in iron, B6, B12 deficiencies, zinc deficiencies, right? So those are things to look for as well as more localized symptoms like headaches or migraines or joint pain or people who have parasites often feel difficulty settling into themselves. So they might have anxiety like I did or depression like I did. You often see them chewing on themselves, like chewing on their nails, scratching at them. So just kind of like difficulty being at home in your own skin. You'll never unsee that now,
Yes, now you you won't. Now you're like, my hand's scratching. I'm chewing ice, like those kind of things sometimes too.
Yes, totally. Yes, people with their hair in their mouths or fingers in their mouths or fingers in their nose. I mean, it's just like it's a whole thing, guys. So you don't have to have all the gross stuff. You might have the eye floaters. You might have more localized things like breathing problems and asthma, which yes can be attributed to mold exposure, but it can also just be parasites laying eggs in your lungs. That's a whole thing. So that's strongyloides for you. That's one of the most common parasites in the United States. So
yes,
I love talking about this stuff because it sets people free. It brings so much joy to it, but I realize it is disgusting. So.
Yeah, especially when you see the pictures, when you get sent the pictures of the parasite you can actually, that's like, you can see it actually sometimes, not always, but sometimes you can see them passing.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yes.
That's a great point actually, because people think, oh, if I had a parasite, I would know. I would have seen it in the toilet, right? And actually, as parasites die, first of all, over 60% of parasites are invisible to the naked eye, right? They're monocellular. They are actually classified as cultures and pathogenic biofilms. So you're not necessarily going to see fireworks in the toilet unless you're on a parasite protocol that draws them out. Then those larger worms you might see in the toilet still intact. But they do, as they die, they secrete enzymes to break down their bodies very quickly. And unfortunately, that's a retoxification event for you. So it's part of why if you've been on a parasite cleanse that's not well designed, you'll feel really bad as they're dying off because you are liberating in rapidly all these toxins that the parasites have been holding onto for you. So it's really weird stuff. But yeah, that's why you might not have seen them in the toilet unless you're on a specific protocol that draws them out.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I think I want to just even go back to what you were saying about the symptoms because it really does vary. So my daughter I'm going to just use her as an example. She was having migraines and I was trying to get her to do all of the things that I'm telling her to do and she wasn't listening. And so we did do a stool test and I said, well, you have a parasite. It showed. It doesn't always show, but it did show. And it was like actually the thing that finally motivated her to listen. And she had no GI symptoms. And so and that's like such an important point, I think, like you're saying, when you're bringing up all of these different things, I think people think, well, I don't have an upset stomach or I'm not having GI symptoms. And this can present, like we're saying, with the histamine overload, with the sensitivities, with the migraines, in all different ways. And it's tricky.
I'm really glad you're underscoring that point because the last thing I want to see is people suffering unnecessarily. So I think we should name a few of the other ones too, like beyond like the mood disorders, like the depression and anxiety piece. There's some weird symptoms like TMJ, teeth grinding at night. This kind of stuff. And yes, there's like highly localized things like rectal itching. Why would you have that? Because mama parasite is gonna thread her way down to the rectum, lay her eggs right there at the end of the colon, and secrete a sticky substance with it so that they get picked up with your bowel movement. But that sticky substance is very irritating to you, so you end up scratching. I think some people think, parasite symptoms are going to be only gross in nature, and yes, there are those, but it's also things like, eye floaters, and yes, abdominal pain and all that, but like dry lips, menstrual problems. That's a big one that I think you and I both see. Liver congestion, reproductive distress, especially in women. Like these can be like those cysts, ovarian cysts, fibroids, PCOS, endometriosis. One of the first things I would look at is liver overload and parasite load. How can we free up the reproductive system from having to handle all this stress for the body because it's being asked to do too much as a detox pathway,
Yes.
So I really appreciate you bringing it. Did we leave any out?
I know. I don't think so. I think we got a wide variety. So yes, we got the view. Just if you're listening, watching, that you have to look at everything. And I think that's where unpacking some of these things can get difficult because, especially when we're told, like you're saying, you're fine, your labs look fine, they're normal, and you're saying, okay, no, but I have all of these symptoms, and we're really trying to help you figure out where to start. So let's move a little bit into, you mentioned really in relation to histamine, mast cell, because there is that connection with parasites.
Yeah, there really is. And again, guys, we are making histamine in the body, right? We need to have it to live. So let's not give it a bad rap. It's what we're looking at is how does the body actually process histamine? And, the good news is you're like full up on experts that Dr. Meg has, taken you on this grand tour and this summit. So I won't belabor that point. I'll just point out that, parasites are really good at producing histamine. And so it's very easy to have overproduction of histamine because your body can't actually regulate itself and its own histamine load if your parasites are deciding when to produce histamine. So it's not just you in relationship to your environment. It's not just you in relationship to your own liver overload and can you keep up, but it's also how are the parasites responding to their environment. And if you think like a parasite, parasites are driving your food cravings and they're responding to your environment in your body and the environment your body is in all the time. So one of the things that we teach in parasite cleansing is actually, EMF. We call it hygiene, EMF hygiene. Just how to think about this, because as you sleep, your body needs to be able to be in a low EMF environment so it can heal quickly, but also not have your immune system suppressed so it can go after parasites so you aren't overproducing histamine. So you have to think about the cascade effects of the environment that you're in when you already know if your immune system is on the back foot, if your body has become overloaded and it doesn't have the energy to detox whatever you've been exposed to in your food, air, and water, you are the perfect host for parasites, right? So therefore, it is safe to assume that we need to assess and take a deeper look at are parasites a part of your histamine production and therefore part of your histamine overload? And what does it take to unpack that for your body once it's already depleted, already oversensitized, right? These are the ways that we look at this clinically together. And I know it's confusing because, it's tough to, I really love that you called that right away, that it's tough to find parasites on labs. Mm-hmm. Like we get to acknowledge that for sure. We do not have commercially available foolproof testing methods at this time. It's like you said, like, oh, yay, we found one. We actually have proof. That's what a stool test is for. It's a layer of information at best. Right? And it will not give you the full picture of what's under the hood. It's all it is a window. So thanks for calling that out. And I really appreciate it because we want to give people realistic expectations.
Yes. Yeah, it's tough. So if someone is thinking that they may have a parasite, where do you start? Where do you put this in your, because I know you work with a lot of people with chronic illnesses. So where do you layer this in your healing?
As early as they can tolerate it, honestly.
Okay.
And I want to make a really important distinction here. And I know you're very thoughtful about this as well. We don't just go in and hunt and kill.
Yes.
Just because the bugs are there and they're driving symptoms doesn't mean the fastest path forward is actually killing them off and creating huge die-off reactions. Because for one thing, histamine-sensitive people can't tolerate that. Right? So then we get into this huge drama of flare and crash with parasite cleanses if they're done inappropriately. It doesn't mean you can't tackle them or as early as possible in the health journey. We just need to make sure that we have drainage support in place and that we're drawing out the parasites as much as possible intact, with materials like Mimosa pudica, etc. And making sure that we have enough mitochondrial support and we're thinking through your environment at the same time, right? Because if you're frying alive while you sleep in bed at night from your EMFs, that can actually 10x your histamine load, depending on your EMF sensitivities and the environment that you're in. So that's a really big deal, and that will absolutely inhibit your body's ability to not just clear histamine, but clear the parasites themselves. And any parasite cleanse is really an invitation to the body. The body still has to do the work.
Oh, that's a good one. Yes.
Right? I know. And I'm so glad I learned parasite cleansing from German parasitologists, these cranky old guys, because they really impress us upon me. Like 85% of the work is what they used to say, is being done by the immune system, is being done by the body when it comes to parasite work. So your supplements are informing the body, but you still have to have the energy in place, which is why we always do mitochondrial support. We want to smooth out the way. We want to have drainage support in place. Like, okay, let's open the doors. Let's get things moving, right? We need the gut letting go. We need the liver letting go, not too fast, but, we need to keep things moving. And then we layer in the antiparasitics absolutely as soon as you will tolerate them.
Let's just talk about, because you and I know drainage support more, but they may not know what drainage support is. So let's just talk a little bit about some of those steps that we want to do first.
Yeah, it's a great point. So when we're thinking about drainage, I know it's such a gross word, but the body's not gross. That's fine.
It is.
I'm totally desensitized to all of this. Like, I'd love to show you some parasite pictures today. Just so you guys know what to look for in the toilet, right? Maybe we can make sure we find some time for that. And then, the thing about drainage is it's absolutely crucial to not just staying alive, but being healthy. Health is a state of flow. I always say a moving stream runs clean, right? So that means that you are able to take things in efficiently, like food, air, and water, right? And absorb what you want to and release what is unwanted very efficiently. That's flow. That's drainage. So yes, you're using your detox pathways for that, your emunctories, right? So that's your liver, your kidneys. Yes, your digestive tract is essential for that, your colon. And yeah, your lymphatic system, higher up in the drainage funnel are essential to be working. So we're flushing out the body, right? The body actually spends just as much, if not more, work flushing things out that, we don't need anymore or were never wanted in the first place, as we do taking things in and trying to digest and absorb them. So drainage support is about helping the body do what it already wants to do. It just hasn't been in a position to do it as efficiently as it would like to. And why would that be? Well, because we're living in a really strange day and age of these toxins in our food, air, and water. It's not anything like exotic. You don't have to have been in like a really weird situation. You don't have to have been like a fireman, like running into burning buildings and having things toxic off-gassing at you. Like your home is off-gassing at you. So let's just, give our body some grace that it might need some drainage support. And remember that we always start with drainage from the bottom up, because you don't want to try to flush a clogged toilet. Because what happens then? You're going to get this overflow of yucky, unnecessary symptoms, right? So the colon's got to be moving. Just basics. You're not allowed to detox and you're not allowed to parasite cleanse if you weren't pooping, my friend. So we want to be pooping 1 to 3 times a day. We want to be hydrating in order to support that, so we have a clear door to the exits, right? Because one of your body's favorite ways to let go of toxins is through the bile, through the bowels, And that same goes for parasites. How else are they going to leave the body? Really, when you think about it. Yes, some of them are going to be, like we've had many clients pee out parasites, and we teach these nasal rinses so you can get out the localized ones, especially for those of you that have been exposed to mold. You probably have some buggies up here. We got to flush those guys out too. But really, it starts from the bottom up. So we always open up the colon. We always support gut motility and, gentle liver support so that you have the energy to let go of parasites. So that's what drainage support is. Supporting what your body already knows how to do. It just can't keep up right now.
Yeah, that's really important. And the other thing you mentioned that's so interesting is the toxin part, how parasites love toxins. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. And I want to help you guys think about this. So when I say parasites, I mean the monocellular guys all the way up to the big worms, like the big tapeworms that, yes, can be over 20 feet long. But usually you have something in the middle. You have like some hookworms that are like this long that are attaching to your small intestine wall, the lining of it, and they're drinking your blood, right? And what are they doing? They're actually helping to filter your blood at the same time, and they're holding onto toxins for you. And those bigger worms, like threadworms, roundworms, strongyloides, these guys are holding not just the industrial chemicals that came in that you breathed in, that your liver's having a hard time processing and letting go of, but also the mold and mycotoxins. Your candida is holding on to the mercury from your amalgam fillings that, you got the amalgam fillings out a few years ago. You still have 80% of that mercury in your body. And then candida is acting in a parasitic way for you. It's stabilizing that mercury and slowly, very slowly oxidizing it and breaking it down over time into slightly less toxic formats of mercury. So your body is allowing it because it will actually hold several times its weight, its own body weight of mercury for you. That's why one of the reasons why you feel so bad when you do a candida cleanse, because you are releasing the mycotoxins the candida held, the mercury and other heavy metals that you drank in your tap water or you showered in or, was in your baby food, this is just normal life stuff at this point. We can't get away. So we assume toxin exposure, and we understand that each parasite species has its own strategies for holding toxins for you, in part because they don't mind. They thrive in toxic, low oxygen environments. That's not where your immune system thrives. So they love using it as a survival strategy because your body will tolerate them, and then they get to eat your food first. They get to steal your energy first. They get to steal your GABA, right? Your calm neurotransmitter, your serotonin. That's like, the will to live and happy feelings and things. Like they get to eat all of that. They enjoy all of that from you. So they don't want to kill you. They just want to keep you weak. And toxin absorption is a great strategy for them to be allowed in the door and set up shop. Yes. So, amazing question.
What do you do, when you're seeing this? We don't know what they're holding. So we're really trying to do these parasite cleanses. And can we talk a little bit about supporting your body during that time so you're not getting the Herx reactions?
Yes, absolutely. So I always talk about, if you don't know what a Herx reaction is, it's short for Herxheimer reaction. And what we mean is, although I know that our histamine and our MCAS folks know exactly what Herx reaction is, right? You guys know, you've all been through it like we have. So first of all, it's not fun. It can be, misnamed as a healing reaction. It's not. It's an unnecessary symptomatic response. And I think about it this way. How to make a Herx reaction? Let's learn the formula so we know how to avoid it. You make a Herx reaction because you don't have enough drainage support and you don't have enough mitochondrial support for your body to process what you're asking it to process. And then you add in some root cause work like, maybe you should detox. And maybe you should kill off some parasites. And how about we just add to your to-do list even though you don't have enough energy, you don't have enough drainage. That's how you make a Herx reaction. So you didn't set the stage up properly for yourself. And a lot of this is learning your own body and taking some responsibility for really taking in the protocol that you get from your practitioner and really investigating it fully and providing clear feedback, because your practitioner can't help you if they don't understand the response that you're getting. And everybody is different in terms of your capacity to offload and drain, right, and detox at each chapter of your healing, which is why, like, in our parasite cleanse, like even in Rapid Parasite Jumpstart, which is our Get Started Quick parasite course, we teach people how to individualize and customize the protocol for yourself based on your own drainage capacity at the time, which can change dramatically over time. So we just want to think about, first of all, acknowledging that Herx reactions are going to happen if the formula is off. We need enough mitochondrial support, enough drainage support. Then we layer in the detox and parasite work, right? And I apologize, I forget what your question was. Was that what you...
That's exactly what it was. And I would have to say, even practitioner-wise, I can't tell you the number of people that I've had actually come to me that have been put on detox right away. And there's just something going on right now where people just talk about detox all the time. And if you do that before your body is ready, you're just asking for problems. And I think that's something that what you're saying, it's really so important to know, because while I always just think a good thing in the wrong place can be such a bad thing sometimes. And we really have to acknowledge there's a process to healing. It may take some more time, but if we follow that process, you're going to set yourself up in a positive way. Instead of feeling like I can't do anything, I feel worse.
Yeah, I'm really glad you said that. I agree with you. It's really important that we lay the right groundwork, especially for people with histamine sensitivities and MCAS. And it's not a life sentence, guys. It's not a death sentence either. It's about respecting the fact that your body's on the back foot, and there is a way forward from here. All you need to know is what is the next step. Yes. So yes, we got to offload the parasites. We also get to prepare the body for that work,
Yes, thank you so much. Do you have your pictures ready? We could.
Oh yeah, that's some fun ones. See.
That's a fun little treat. Let me actually give you that. We can share.
Okay, thanks. Dun, 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 dun. There we go. Can you see that yet?
I can't see it yet.
Okay, let's try.
We can just cut them.
So we have these really fun. I call them our family photo album because we have a big forum. Everybody shares their progress along the way. It's so great, and you want to know what to look for, right? I know it's gross, but hey, we gave you a warning, guys. Mm-hmm. You want to know what to look for. This is it. Like, yes, these are some of the bigger ones. Like, that's a very classic presentation of what's known as wormworm, where you get these big, methane bubbles, in here that are helping them to float. One of the easiest ways to let go of these is actually with enemas and coffee enemas, because it provides the body with the amount of energy that it needs to offload these things while they're still intact. It's not a requirement, but it sure does help. And I just love seeing this because, this is great. So this is like a whipworm right there. Potentially, you also within this size range, these could be, this is a little long for hookworms. It could be pinworms, etc. And you get, you have to remember that parasites aren't always pretty. Like, they're not all going to look like pink earthworms, right? Some of them, like a major class of parasites is flatworms, which, trematodes that can be, often mistaken for those. Trematodes are liver flukes, lung flukes, intestinal flukes, and blood flukes, as well as this classic presentation of, I love this illustration because it really shows like what some of that threadworm class of parasites are doing in the gut, and why you might have that pinchy feeling and that block that comes intermittently, especially if you eat carby foods or dairy. Whatever your personal triggers are, what are they doing? Well, they're damming up a section of your intestine and trying to slow down motility so that they have longer to feed on your food. The slower your food goes, the more it rots, the higher the sugar content. Yay for them.
Yes.
Right? Not yay for you, yucky for you, but certainly really important to understand. So that's some fun stuff. I also always love to show flukes, because if you're doing any liver support work, you want to know that they don't always come out looking like worms, right? Mm-hmm. And, you'll see a lot of debate online, and even practitioners get hooked into this debate. Like, those aren't worms, they're mucoid plaque, or it's biofilm. It's like, well, yeah, but a lot of that is, first of all, you're never going to know unless you test it under the microscope. And we haven't mapped most of the parasite genome because there isn't the money to do it. It's just not worth it to the people who fund most of those studies, because how are they going to make money off of it, guys? Yes. That's how you have to think about how medical institutions think. So we expect it to take some time for us to be able to map the parasite genome in any real way. People who are trying to fund ropeworm studies, they've been working on that for over 20 years, and it's privately funded. They've only mapped part of the genome. It's slow going, and that's why you're still seeing a big debate about this stuff online. But it doesn't matter if it's parasitic biofilms, in the toilet, or if it's full-on worms. It's better out than in, because those biofilms are absolutely, what they do is they pull and trap your white blood cells, and they can actually modulate their own DNA up to 90% within a colony, but it's more typical to be like up to 70% within a colony, because this part of your intestine's a little more acidic than this end of their colony. This part's a little warmer, this part's a little cooler. Fine, they're going to figure out a way to thrive. They have no problems adapting to you and trying to drive your behavior to adapt to them. So we just get to think like them and to say better out than in. We'll never know every single species that you have. We actually don't need to for you to get your health back. That's the good news. What we do want to do is set the body up to be a draining, detoxing, parasite excreting machine, so that you can catch up on this overload and backlog that has developed over time. Return to that moving stream runs clean. Remember how we talked about that? And that's when you get back to feeling healthy and resilient again. You don't have to worry about, well, when am I going to know that was the last parasite that I saw in the toilet? Like, that's the end. They don't wave a white flag like, we're done, we give up. Mm-hmm. What we want is to offload the excess of them so that your immune system can become back in charge and you have enough energy to meet the challenges of your life. That's what we're looking to create. And that is enough, I promise. That is enough. We see
your
over and over again.
Symptoms will improve too. You see that change, so you don't have to have that test that, like we're saying, the testing can be variable. You start to feel, I always tell people, like, you start to feel better. You can tell your immune system is more active. We're working on all of these pieces. And I loved another thing, how you said that really they are in charge. Like, when we think of parasites, they are living. So they have life cycles, they can adapt. And that's something kind of hard for people to think, I think, in your own body too. We're coexisting.
Yeah, that's a really great point, because like parasites all have their own reproductive cycles, so they're more active at certain times of the month. That's why you see all the online content about like full moon challenges, or, oh, my parasites went wild on my full moon. Yeah, ERs and police stations staff up during full moons because they know your parasites are more active and they're driving weird behavior. Yes. I lived back in the day when we were totally broke because we've been financially devastated by our health issues. We were trying to just like focus on healing. We lived in this yucky apartment complex, and every full moon was wild. People would drink too much. They would, it was nuts. So yeah, it's not uncommon for parasites to be driving that kind of behavior. And we have to think about, when you're detoxing heavy metals or other toxins, those don't have a consciousness. They don't bite back. You just want to make sure you're releasing them in a way that's safe and doesn't create more harm on their way out the door. Parasites, you actually have to get ahead of them in the life cycle and get your immune system back in charge. So it is fighting a consciousness. It's a different set of strategies for sure. But I love that message of hope that you really underscored. Like, this is all doable, and you do see symptom reduction along the way. We see people in Rapid Parasite Jumpstart and Rapid Gut Reset. These guys are dialing back their dairy intolerances. They're getting more and more tolerant to histamine. They're getting more and more tolerant to their environment. They're able to go back into stores. They're able to sleep through the night. They're not, dealing with the life-ruining skin conditions anymore. Or maybe you're the person with migraines and you don't have any gut symptoms. Like, all of this you can make substantial progress if you're doing the right tools at the right time. So that's.
Yeah, thank you so much for all the great information. Can you tell everyone where they can find more about you?
Oh, yeah, thanks, Ben. So we do, we're on Instagram, Detox Rejuvenation. And, you can also follow me personally, Sinclair Keneally. I have a podcast, Your Health Reset. And we do have a really lovely, I love it because we take hundreds of people through this at a time. It's an easy way to get started on your parasites. It's called Rapid Parasite Jumpstart. And in just a few weeks, you learn all these tools and we make it safe and even fun. We laugh, we cry. You have a ton of support in the forum together. It's a real joy to finally take back control of your health. So that's my favorite way for you to get started on this topic.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us today.
Thanks. I really appreciate your advocacy in this space for this population. Let's demystify this and let people know there's hope and help. So thank you so much.
Yes. Have a great day, everyone.